As Mark said, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us in the first of a two-part forum series. As he mentioned, too, the second one will be May 15th, so we hope that you will join us that day as well for that forum. But when I gave a temple talk several months ago, many of you probably remember if you heard it, I talked about the many different hats that we all wear, right? And so today I'm here as wearing several different hats. I'm wearing a hat as a member of this congregation, a hat, a volunteer of the stewardship ministry team, and then my hat as a regional gift planner with the ELCA Foundation. So I bring you, and I can say this officially today, Today I bring you greetings on behalf of Bishop Regina Hassanally and staff at the Southeastern Minnesota Synod, as well as Presiding Bishop Elizabeth Eaton and all the fine folks at the ELCA Churchwide office in Chicago. So before I begin, I'd like to just put this disclaimer out there and say that all examples and information provided are for illustrative and educational purposes only, and should not be considered legal, tax, or financial advice. Okay, so I want to kick it off this morning and just talk about stewardship very briefly and what you would define and how you would define the term stewardship. What does it mean to you? Does anybody have any particular thoughts in terms of how you would define stewardship?
Giving your time and money.
Giving your time and money? All right. Other thoughts?
Giving back to God what's already His.
Giving back to God what's already His.
You get a gift with an answer. Helping others.
Helping others.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, stewardship is the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. So when we think about stewardship, we often, most times, right, we think of financial resources, but stewardship also correlates to time, talent, treasures, right? So all of those things that we might steward as an individual. And there's no doubt about it that we as Lutherans are very generous people, but as faithful stewards, we are also financial disciples. We are stewards of all the resources God has entrusted to us, as Randy said, throughout our lifetime. And so I have a colleague of mine who likes to say, it starts with the heart. It starts with the heart. And I'd say that I'd agree with her. Questions to ponder. In what ways do you view the financial gifts God has given you? Do you lead your life with a spirit of generosity and abundance? In what ways do you experience and express gratitude? And in what ways is this proclaimed in your life? Second, let's take a look at the term legacy. And how would you define legacy? So Rachel Freed, who is an author, a social worker, and a senior fellow at the University of Minnesota Center for Spirituality and Healing, says in one of her books that legacies are footprints we leave behind after we die. They prove that we were here, we lived, we mattered, we made a difference. And many of you might be familiar with the poet Maya Angelou, and she said, if you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. So, I want to take a look at the wow, how, and now of leaving a legacy of generosity. It may surprise you, or perhaps not, that more than 90% of the average American's wealth is held in assets. Only 10% is held in cash and savings accounts. So 90% held in assets. We typically look to our checking accounts to make our small regular gifts. That can include our weekly gifts to our congregation, our monthly gifts to our favorite ministries, and perhaps our annual gifts to our favorite charities. Then when special appeals come along, such as the current mini campaign that we have, the challenge match we have, we might look to our savings or investment accounts to make those more larger gifts. And sometimes those can be to a capital campaign or to repair something in the congregation, but they're generally a larger gift, and you might be spreading that out over time. So those are the 3 jars there. And then the third jar that I have there is when we consider all the blessings that we have received, and we think about the ministries that have been special to us throughout our lives, we turn to our estates to consider how we can make a difference even after we have gone to our heavenly home. This is what my work focuses on, collaboratively working with you, together with you to support First English, as well as the other ministries and charities that are important to you through legacy gifts. So what financial gifts are you stewarding? You might not have thought about some of these, but maybe you have. Cash, bonds, certificates of deposit. Maybe you have stock and that stock has appreciated over time. Real estate, obviously you have a house, but maybe you also have a cabin or a vacation home. You might have farmland or some other kind of land. You have IRAs, qualified retirement plans. Perhaps you have a life insurance policy. If you're a farmer, you have gifts of grain or other commodities such as cattle. So when it comes to legacy giving, on average, what we see as charitable gift planners is that many individuals and couples have, on average, anywhere from 3 to 5 beneficiaries named in their estate plan, in addition to their family, right? So they're taking into consideration their children, their grandchildren, but above and beyond their family, they've got typically 3 to 5 beneficiaries that they've named. So what are some ministries and charities that you could potentially consider making a gift to? Well, obviously, like I said, family members. Of course, your congregation, First English, right? You could also look at the Synod, and there's a Fund for Leaders account at the Synod that uplifts our pastors in terms of seminary debt. You could also look to your college or university that you attended. It doesn't necessarily have to be an ELCA-related college. You could look to Good Earth Village, our camp in our Synod, ELCA World Hunger or Disaster Response, which are part of church-wide programs. Campus ministries, we have Crossroads Campus Ministry in Mankato, and we have Lutheran Campus Ministry in Winona. Could be your favorite 501c3 nonprofit here in Faribault. It could be the Paradise Center for the Arts. It could be the Habitat for Humanity. It could be the hospital. As long as they are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, you could include them in your legacy plan. It could be a social service agency, such as Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota or LIRS. And then finally, what I have here is it could be women of the ELCA or Lutheran Men in Mission. So that's just a sampling, right? I mean, I'm sure you could all think of other worthy nonprofit organizations as well as programs here within our congregation that would benefit from a legacy gift. So when you think about it, not only can our faith move mountains, but like I said, legacy gifts are very powerful. They can really make an impact on an organizations. They are resources that God has entrusted to us, and they are the gift that can make the greatest impact. They can uplift a ministry, they can revitalize a nonprofit organization, and they can give that nonprofit or congregation perhaps the added boost that it needed for years. So, what tools are available? This is my part 2, how. And Sarah, I was going to wear the mask that you made Ruth on it was the different mask of the pow pow, you know? Yeah, that one. But what tools are available to you through the ELCA Foundation? So, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father were all farmers in southwestern Minnesota, okay? I never felt the call to be a farmer, as Ruth can tell you. That was never going to be my gig, right? But I have worked in the nonprofit sector for about 14 plus years. But If you are a farmer, right, Mr. Kangas, you know you have to have the right tool for, or Mr. Covert too, yes. You have to have the right tool right, to fix that combine and make it run again, right? Certain tools do certain jobs. They have a certain task, right, to make things go. So I'd like to talk about 3 general ways to make a gift, to make a current gift as well as a legacy gift. Give now, give and receive, and give later. So give now. Obviously, you can make a current gift now to the First English Mission Endowment Fund. This fund is a fund that makes annual distributions each year, and this fund is intended to live into perpetuity. So obviously you can gift cash, but what a lot of people don't know is that you can also gift stock to a congregation. And you can gift, if you are 72 or older, and you know that you have to make a required minimum distribution from your IRA, you can make a qualified charitable distribution to your congregation as well. So if stocks might have appreciated in value over the years and you've got capital gains tax on them, and if you liquidate them, you're going to experience some taxes on them. But if you gift them to the church, you will potentially avoid that capital gains tax on it. So these are some tools that are really good for you in terms of thinking about how can I utilize stocks that have appreciated, or if I have to make my required minimum distribution, then how can I make it a qualified? So as you all know and have heard, that today we're starting our Mission Endowment Fund Challenge. Through the end of this month, we have a dollar for dollar match up to $25,000, and our goal is to add $50,000 to this fund. Currently, we have about roughly a little bit over $70,000 in the fund, I think we're at. And our goal is to get this fund well over $100,000. So it's going to keep making annual distributions to the nonprofits in our community, as well as regionally and globally, that our congregation and the finance ministry team recommends to the church council. So give and receive. This is a gift that gives twice, I like to say. And who doesn't like a gift that gives twice, right? You have the option. One of the things is to receive an income during your lifetime, and then after death, the remainder then goes to the ministry. So there's 2 tools that we have at the ELCA Foundation that do this, that fulfill this: a charitable gift annuity and a charitable remainder trust. If you're familiar with a charitable gift annuity, it is something where it pays out to you during your lifetime. You can set it up as a one or a joint. So it's making payments to you and or your spouse. And then upon death, it's going to go to the beneficiaries that you've named. A charitable remainder trust is very similar, but we have an attorney on staff in Chicago who helps to draft and write the charitable remainder trust. And the charitable remainder trust can be very beneficial if you want to have a gift, some income now, or perhaps you want to make that gift so it's given to your children over a certain amount of time after your death. Typically, a charitable remainder trust is up to 20 years. So you want your children to receive an income perhaps for a certain amount of years. At the end of that time period, whatever you establish, then the charity receives whatever is remaining in that trust. So charitable remainder trust. Yeah, so they both will pay you out during the course of the year. So you can set it up now so you could receive an income right now with the charitable remainder trust, as well as the charitable gift annuity. They both would pay out now. But you could set up the charitable remainder trust to additionally pay out during a course of years to your children or your grandchildren. A charitable gift annuity essentially is a contract between you and the ELCA Foundation. A charitable remainder trust is a trust. It is a legal trust that would be holding the money. with a charitable gift annuity, you have to be 65. You can do a charitable gift annuity if you are 55. That is referred to as a deferred charitable gift annuity. I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about Bob. Bob is, that is not a real picture of Bob. That is a stock photo. But Bob, this is a true story actually of an individual who I've worked with. And I'm going to be telling you another story here too in time. But obviously I've changed their names. I'm not using their pictures and everything. But Bob loves charitable gift annuities. I can generally anticipate a call from Bob every time, usually around Christmas time. And he really likes that reliable predictability of having an income stream and knowing that if he passes away tomorrow, that the beneficiaries that he has named are going to be taken care of. That whatever is remaining with that charitable gift annuity, they're going to receive whatever upon his death. So that's really something that he enjoys, and I think he's probably got about 6 different charitable gift annuities. So with a charitable gift annuity, you can generally take an immediate tax deduction for the contribution's value. You can avoid capital gains tax or reduce them when funding with appreciated securities. And you can make a significant gift to your congregation with the remaining assets. 2 beneficiaries are typically allowed with a charitable gift annuity. So I'd like to talk about the third area, and that is giving later. So you retain control of an asset, you gift the asset upon your death, and probably most of us are most familiar with this type. 80 to 90% of legacy gifts are this type, fall into this category. Tools, of course, you can name congregation, First English, or other beneficiaries as part of a life insurance policy. You can name them as a beneficiary of a retirement plan. So both life insurance policies and retirement plans, you could name them as beneficiaries. Of course, you might have a will or a trust established that would name beneficiaries in that. And then there's a distribution agreement. And a distribution agreement you might not be as familiar with as the others that are on this list. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what a distribution agreement is. So here's a story about Bill. not Bill, that's not Spill, right, Dan? You're catching on. Yeah. Bill was somebody who I met over a cup of coffee. And we visited and talked about his family and his faith and how long he had been a member of his congregation. I learned that Bill's wife had passed away 5 years ago in her early 70s, and they had always talked about making a will but never had gotten around to it. And so now Bill was determined to work with his estate planning attorney and get a will established. They had one grown son who had no children and was never going to have children. And he had spoken with his son on numerous occasions about his finances, and his son, who was financially well off, told his dad that he didn't need anything or didn't want anything from him. He had all that he could possibly have. So Bill, whose faith was formed as a young child going to Bible camp, as well as campus ministry while he was in college, wanted to make sure to include these ministries as part of his legacy plan, as well as his home congregation. But he also wanted to support Lutheran disaster response, ELCA World Hunger, and a fund that would support pastors with seminary debt. So in all, he had 6 beneficiaries. So after talking for some time, he pulled out a sheet of paper, and we were sitting there having coffee, and he slid the piece of paper over to me, and it listed all of his assets, had no debts, and he told me, "Tharan, I never thought I would have this much." And he pointed to the number at the bottom of the page. And his net portfolio had grown to be well over $1 million. And he asked me what tool did I think. Well, he didn't use the word tool, But essentially, that's what he was asking me. What tool did I think would be the best to make his legacy gift? He said he didn't want to locate any forms that he had to change, or percentages, or beneficiary forms to track down, and he wanted to make things efficient and simple for his son, who was the executor of his estate when he passed away. So I told him the best tool that I could see based on his goal was a distribution agreement. While his assets were well over $1 million, any size gift can utilize a distribution agreement as long as 70% benefits ELCA-related organizations or ministries, and up to 30% may be to qualified 501c3 charitable organizations. So in this case, he named the ELCA Foundation as the beneficiary of his assets, and upon his death, his son only has to work with one entity, us, the ELCA Foundation, and then we will distribute the assets according to his wishes in the distribution agreement that we have on file. If he ever wants to change percentages or beneficiaries, all he has to do is contact me. I make edits, draft a new one, and it will cost him nothing, and he does not need to hunt down any additional paperwork or forms or whatever. I just have him sign a new distribution agreement. So what you're not seeing here at the bottom typically is that Bishop Elizabeth Eaton will sign this distribution agreement. And again, it's a nice way that folks can utilize the services of the foundation when remembering also local nonprofits. So as long as it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Habitat for Humanity, Paradise Center for the Arts, so on and so forth, you can include them in your distribution agreement. So here's my now, and I had to put this picture in here. We're just like,
because it's so old.
yeah, it is old, I know. I know, right? I was thinking, I wonder if it was Mother's Day or, yeah, a couple of years ago, right? The quality's not the best, but I had to put it in there because Miles was in there. And so now is the time to get something right established. Our congregation, our synod, our church-wide has done great work over the years. But there's still more work to be done. And this work requires a plan, your plan. And my hope is that our conversation this morning spurred some thoughts for you on how you want to leave a legacy to First English. In many cases, I've seen instances in where folks did not take action. And so my suggestion and hope is that you will take some action in creating your legacy plan. We all have an estate, right? Everybody has an estate. It's just a matter of how you want that estate to be directed. Do you want it to be directed according to your wishes, or do you want it to be directed towards somebody else's wishes, i.e. the government sometimes, right? If you don't make a plan, that plan will probably be made for you. So I have all those tools in my toolbox. It's just a matter of really sitting down and figuring out what is the right tool for you in your particular situation. Perhaps you maybe have had something rattling around in your head for years in terms of supporting First English, but you've never really taken action or really figured out how do I make this happen, right? And so let's sit down and talk about that. I can tell you an example of an individual I worked with received a call from the pastor, and the pastor said, hey, I have a member of my congregation who is interested in creating a named endowment. And so I said, well, great, let's meet. And so the three of us met. And I learned more about what the individual wanted to do. And that individual said, I want to remain anonymous, but I want it to benefit my congregation and specifically the youth of my congregation, youth ministry. So they had a very small line item in their operating budget for youth ministries, and this individual felt very passionate about youth, supporting youth ministry and scholarships as well. And so what we did was we worked on creating a named endowment. And so that endowment is not named after this individual because they wanted to remain anonymous, but it's named a very more generic name, I would say, to support this congregation in our synod. And so that endowment will continue to distribute monies to the youth of that congregation for years to come. And then additionally, upon death, this individual then will also kick in another part into the named endowment fund that will boost the endowment to live on into perpetuity. So if you already have something established in your will or trust or by beneficiary designation, I'm glad to sit down with you and review it. I should note that when you declare your legacy intent to any ministry of the ELCA, you become a member of the Legacy Society of the ELCA, which is my little pin right here that I have on, and that's what this little display is right there. So that's our legacy kit. And I'd like to welcome you as a member of the ELCA Legacy Society upon commitment to any congregation or ministry of the ELCA. And my hope is that you will also join myself and Ruth in terms of creating a legacy plan that will benefit our congregation down the road. So, rounding it out here, why do me and my fellow 22 colleagues do this work? Because we absolutely love to see people put their legacy plan in place. We deeply care about the ministries of the ELCA. And as Bishop Eaton, if you've ever heard her say, she says, "We are church together." She likes to use that phrase. And really, that's really what a lot of us take to heart. And I always like to repeat this: there is no cost for my service. I always honor a donor's wish to remain anonymous, and I will always maintain confidentiality. I'm a salaried employee of the ELCA Foundation, so that's the work that we do as charitable gift planners. And there's my contact information, and I look forward to us working towards that challenge match for the remainder of this month and growing our mission endowment fund as well. And thank you everyone for coming and